We made it to the end of Bio A. To wrap things up here with food webs. A food web shows all of the food chains in an ecosystem, and the arrows can be pointing all over the place. They can get really complicated if you try to include everything. We still have trophic levels like we did before with the food chains, where we start with a plant and there's something that eats the plant, and so on and so on. Remember that the arrows have to point the way energy is flowing. So in this case, if you want to say that the plant is eaten by the grasshopper, the energy points toward the grasshopper. Or think of it like who's going to be in whose mouth. Grasshopper is going to be in the spider's mouth. Spider is going to be in the shrew's mouth. When we get with food webs too, some organisms can be in more than one level. So, for example, our grass here, our plants are always going to be the producers to start with. The rabbit would be a first consumer, primary. So would the grasshopper. But if we follow this through, if this rabbit is one, the coyote would be a second consumer if we went this way. But what if we went this way? Then it would be first, second, third, fourth consumer is the coyote. So the coyote fits in a bunch of different levels. It just kind of depends on which food chain you follow. And that's okay, because in real life, it's not very neat and clean. It tends to get messy. Things are eating other things. An energy pyramid is another way that we can show these food chains and food webs. It's just in a triangle shape. So the bigger levels would have more energy. Plants are at the bottom, and we lose some energy as we move up. These are all just different ways to show the same way that energy is flowing through a ecosystem. So we can show energy flowing through a very simple food chain, just one list in a row. We can show energy flowing through food webs with many lists going everywhere. Or we can show it in this kind of a triangle shape. We're showing the same things different ways. We're going to practice food webs a whole lot, and I think it's more useful if you just try it. So we'll come to that in a little bit. But one thing I wanted to touch on before we leave this topic is that these things passing on energy, well, they're not just passing on energy, they're also passing on other molecules that are in their bodies. So if there is a pollution or a toxin in the environment, it's going to get passed on and it can build up. That's called bioaccumulation. So for example, let's say we have some pollution in the water. Think of whatever pollution you would like. Very teeny tiny little guys. They just kind of get some in their bodies, only a little bit, but they're very small. Then the bigger fish are going to eat them, and then the bigger fish eat them, and so on and so on. So let's say there's one pollution in each of these little guys over here. Well, every time a fish eats it, they get more than one, so maybe they eat 10 of them, so now they have 10 of those pollutions. And if seals eat 10 of those, well, now they have 100 pollution. You see how it increases as you go up. So maybe the pollution isn't very dangerous for the small fish, but it can be dangerous for larger organisms like your higher level carnivores, your bears and seals, the big fish, and also humans. This is one of the reasons why they tell pregnant women not to eat fish, because mercury can bioaccumulate in fish and it can be dangerous to unborn children. Not necessarily if you're already born and grown, but for fetuses that are trying to develop a brain, the mercury could be harmful to them. So bioaccumulation is a thing that's not great that humans are doing. Alrighty, you should know the difference between a food chain and a food web. You should know how to draw those arrows, and that in food webs, organisms could be in more than one level, just depending on which way you follow the arrows. You should know how to read an energy pyramid, and you should know how toxins can build up as you move up a food web or food chain. We will not have a secret word for our last one. But instead, here's how I'm going to tell if you were really paying attention. If you see that question at the end that says, was there a secret word? Select yes. I'm going to see if you were really paying attention, if you actually listened to this whole video. Let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. We're going to practice it more in class. You can ask me more then. That's it. That's the end of our notes for Bio A. We'll see you in Bio B.